good morning, good evening, good afternoon from wherever you're joining us today. Welcome to GET Asia Pacific Connect, a global learning festival of 3 days of educational technology workshops in multiple languages across the Asia Pacific region, live on YouTube. And welcome to this session, How to Create and Deliver Engaging Lessons Using Flipgrid. Engaging lessons using Flipgrid. Today we will explore strategies to foster an engaged classroom using the power of student voice because it matters. A little bit about myself. My name is Kamalpreet. I'm one of the educator innovation leads at Flipgrid. Prior to this, I was working as a middle school science teacher for the past 12 years at a leading public school in Bangalore, India. I am super passionate about everything which is STEM, especially science, cell, the UN SDGs, and gamification. Yes, I'm a gamer at heart. And I'd love to know more about you. So, educators, please share in the live chat below where you're joining us from and a little bit about yourselves. I'm sure that you're having a lot of takeaways, just like me, from this edition of GED APAC Connect to implement in your classrooms. So, let's keep up the momentum and get started right away. So, in this workshop, we'll together explore ways to foster an engaged classroom by creating an environment that is positive, safe, fun, and flexible using what else but Flipgrid. We'll celebrate engagement ideas which are inspired by our global community of educators, that is you, and we'll share resources to support you. And before we do that, let's see what we'll let's see our community forms the center of our eduverse here at Flipgrid. So please keep on sharing your voice and ideas with us. Our mission at Flipgrid is to help educators like you empower every learner on this planet to share the voice and respect the diverse voices of others, because every voice matters and it has the potential to change the world. Now, in case you didn't know, then Flipgrid is a free video discussion platform where students can share a response to questions or prompts hosted by an educator. In other words, it is social learning. It is simple, it is free, it allows everyone to share, celebrate, and showcase their learning in creative ways. In fact, you can get started in just three simple steps. So, how to get started? First, create a group. Just name it and add your students to it. Type in your domain name, that's everything after the at the rate of symbol in your email, or connect your Google Classroom. Select create group, and step one is done. To make it even easier to get discussions started, there is a default introductions topic in every group. Topics are prompts that learners respond to. Invite your students to participate by sharing your group. Simply select share and copy the link. You can share the link anywhere like email, Microsoft Teams, or Google Classroom. You can even share the group as a QR code for learners to scan. That's all that it takes to get learning started on Flipgrid. So now that you've sent the code to your students, let's see what the student would see. Imagine you're a student. So once the student receives the topic, they can respond again in three easy steps. Step one, join the discussion, use the join link or enter the join code that was shared by your educator. Step two, record a video with your response to the prompt. Use any of the Flipgrid camera tools and feel free to get creative. Explore, have fun, be yourself. And step three, it is to take a selfie and submit your videos. That's it. It's that easy to complete an assignment in Flipgrid. Now just sit back, watch the comments on your classmates' videos come in, and the discussions just take off. To make the journey even more interesting and relevant, we talk about student engagement in our classes. The need of the hour, especially in these trying times of remote learning. When we think of student engagement in learning activities, it is often convenient to understand engagement as an activity being represented by three things: good behavior or behavioral engagement, positive feelings or emotional engagement, and most importantly, student thinking, which we call as cognitive engagement. This is according to a study which was done by Fredericks in 2014. So, research also suggests that considering the following six interrelated elements when designing and implementing learning activities helps increase student engagement behaviorally, emotionally, and cognitively, thereby positively affecting student learning and achievement. So, remember that it's important to make it meaningful, to foster a sense of competence, to provide both autonomy as well as support. Remember, both of them together, autonomy and support to your students, to embrace collaborative learning. It's always better together. To establish a positive teacher student relationship, relationships are key, and to promote mastery orientation. Now, before we get started, remember that the strategies that we discussed today, they are valid for all subjects, grade levels, and proficiency levels. So you can get started right away with implementing these in your diverse classrooms. All subjects, all grade levels, and all proficiency levels. The first strategy that I have to share with you is to make it meaningful. In aiming for full engagement, it is essential that students perceive the activities as being meaningful. Now, research has shown that if students don't consider the learning activity worthy of their time and effort, they might not engage in it in a satisfactory way, or they might disengage in it entirely. So, use anecdotes, use case studies, and real life examples from outside the classroom to root your teaching in the real world, like in the example that we see over here for photojournalism by our amazing partner, Pulitzer Center for Education. The next strategy that I have is to foster a sense of competence. Now, remember that the notion of competence may be understood as students' ongoing personal evaluation, notion and personal evaluation of whether he or she can succeed in a learning activity or challenge. Researchers have found that effectively performing an activity can positively impact subsequent engagement. So, if the student thinks that they are performing properly, then they would engage in the future. So, this was according to a study which was done by Skunk and Mullen in 2012. To strengthen students' sense of competence in learning activities, teachers can have students demonstrate their understanding, like in the example that you see over here, where the student not only has to state Newton's laws of motion but also explain it while demonstrating the same. So he is explaining it and he's also demonstrating it at the same time. How engaging can that be? I absolutely love this example. Now, the third strategy that we have is to encourage both autonomy and support, both of them together. Now, let's first talk about autonomy. Now, teachers can do so by welcoming students' opinions and ideas into the flow of the activity. Like in the example that you see over here, where the teacher can have students frame classroom rules. Now, think about it. When each student has a say in an activity like this, the students realize that their opinions are valued and their voice matters. That is what we want. They understand that their voice matters, their opinions make a difference. So that is why it is key to provide that autonomy to the students. Here's another example where the teacher gives students autonomy by seeking student input for assessment design. Like students can choose a final product provided it meets the criteria. Now, giving students a chance also fosters their sense of ownership, ownership over their own learning, and they'll move from being just passive consumers to active learners with a stake in the classroom activity. So, providing them with autonomy to give them a sense of ownership over their own learning. Let's now come on to providing support. Now, support can be implemented by having regular check ins with the students. You can set up a discussion board where students check in and tell you how they are feeling daily, weekly, monthly. This is so important, especially in these times. Depending upon the way that you run your classrooms, you can keep this topic moderated. keep it moderated. So only you have access to your students' voice. Now, this helps the students feel more at ease while they're sharing that accomplishment, but most importantly, their struggles with you, because they don't have that fear that they're being judged by their peers. Okay, so they trust you, and so they'll tell you everything. When you establish these open lines of communications, you help establish those relationships, and these are vital for student success. Students should feel comfortable with you, they should be able to talk to you, and that comes when you invest in these relationships by having these open lines of communications. You can do that through Flipgrid, like in the example that you see over here. The next strategy that I have for you is, whether your students are learning remotely or face to face, whether they're connecting with each other or connecting with classrooms around the planet, collaboration collaboration is essential in the learning process. So embrace collaborative learning, and using Flipgrid is a great way to empower your students by helping them to learn about and respect the diverse voices of others. So you are helping them to respect the diverse voices of others. And the example that we see on the screen talks about the global problem of plastic pollution. It asks students to share similarities and differences. Similarities and differences between the remote community and their own, and calls for classrooms around the world to be inspired by heroes in their own community and then take action. So they are inspired by heroes within their community, and then they are taking action for a global problem, the problem of plastic pollution. So I just love this particular topic that we have. The next thing is to establish positive relationship. High quality teacher student relationships is another critical factor in determining student engagement. When students form a close and caring relationship with their teachers, they are fulfilling their developmental need for a connection with others, a sense of belonging, if you say, in society. Teacher student relationships can be facilitated by increasing one to one time with students, like by setting up a private place for members to post questions, how to videos, comments, and supportive feedback. We can call it a we can call it a help center for students. Perhaps, yeah, that's the correct name for it. Another strategy is to develop is to display positive attitudes and enthusiasm, like in shout outs. Shout outs! Yes, who doesn't like shout outs? Whether it's a huge thank you or a celebration of accomplishment, a shout out is a great way to shine the light on your students. And to make shoutouts even more powerful, you can have all your students share one or more positive observations or quality about one of their peers, and then compile all of these responses into a mixtape for the child. Imagine when the child opens the mixtape and sees all these positive responses coming from all his classmates, he is going to be so happy. So these are the kind of relationships that we are looking to build, and you can do so by Flipgrid. The sixth strategy that I have in my kit is by promoting mastery orientation. Now, students' perspective of learning activities also determines their level of engagement. When students pursue an activity because they want to learn and understand, they want to learn and understand rather than merely obtaining a good grade, looking smart, please their parents, or outperforming their peers, their engagement is more likely to be full and thorough. And this was based on a study which was done by Anderman and Patrick in 2012. To encourage this mastery orientation mindset, one way is to have students set smart goals for themselves. So let the students set in those smart goals. And then what you can do is you can have students follow up on these SMART goals by reflecting on their progress. So they are reflecting on their progress, referencing mixtapes in Flipgrid, and a way to share their mic drop moments. How cool is that? First, they're framing their own SMART goals, and then they're reflecting upon their SMART goals. Have I been able to achieve it or not? What can I do perhaps to achieve the goals that I have set for myself? That is student engagement. That's what we are looking for. So you can do that all remember that these are just strategies. So you can, one of the tools that you can use is Flipgrid, and it works like magic for these strategies. Now, in addition to this to these strategies for student engagement that I've mentioned, the key strategies I would call them, here are other ways that you can nurture student interest and engagement in your classes. So uh, one way of doing it, just to get started, is to find out what already engages your students and then build that into the learning process. Like all of my children, all my students, they love Minecraft. They just love Minecraft. I use the love for the game to help them, to have them demonstrate their learning in science. So they already love Minecraft. So I use that love to show what they have learned in my subject, science. Yeah. Uh, I think like that. Weird, right? So there's a fun fact. Minecraft is one of our partners in the Flipgrid Discovery Library. So plenty more from where that came from. This is just one of those examples. And next is learning. What excites your students? which which does much more than just engage them. By stressing about student interest, you'll also build a strong relationship and rapport with your classroom. Just like you can see in this example over here. So the teacher asked the students to make their arthropod species, to develop their arthropod species in Minecraft. And like he shares, it was amazing to hear them share their thinking, explain the process, and highlight features through Flipgrid screen recording, another feature. Flipgrid screen recording to demonstrate what they have learned, what they'd like to share. The next thing that we have is to ask important or good questions. By following this strategy with the learners, you'll drive rich, engaging discussions that are open to everyone. Ask good questions. So, what is a good questions? Good questions should be open-ended, so no yes or no answers. They should be they should be equitable. When I say equitable, that means be open to answers of varying depth as well as complexity. So the students can answer as simply as they want, or they can give you very complex answers. Just be open to that, and they should be legitimate. Why do I say this? Because you have the students should have that feeling that the question has been asked because you want to hear their thoughts and opinions, and you're not just fishing for the correct answer. You want to hear what they have to share. Their thoughts and their opinions are more important. So when students answer a question, they're just answering it, just leaving it like that, it doesn't solve any purpose. You have to engage with the response, even if it is incorrect, even if it is misinformed. Recognize their effort and use it to refine the question further. For example, you might say you're on the right track, but you could also think about this. So gently, ever so gently nudge them towards getting the correct answer. And the best part about Flipgrid is that it allows you for something which is known as think time. Now, I know as a teacher, I used to be, it used to be so gratifying when I asked the question and I hadn't even finished the question and I could see hands going up. Yes, I know it feels so nice when you have that, but what needs to be considered is that we need to have more considered responses that drive it is those considered responses that drive engaging discussions, and it also makes the conversation accessible to those students who don't have an instant answer. So everybody doesn't think quick on their feet. We also need to take into consideration those students who would like to think about the answer. And what you can do is, after you ask a question, insist on a 20-second pause and give students an opportunity to extend their standard responses further. For example, you might ask, see if you can explain how you came up with that answer too. So it's not just giving up the answer, but let them reflect upon how they got to that particular answer, and you'll receive better answers and start to notice some new hands going up as well. Now remember, I'm sharing strategies over here, so you can use them even in your offline classes. So The next idea that's there is to start lessons and assessments with video hooks. So start your lessons and assessments with video hooks. This could be anything that piques interest, it establishes relevance, or it inspires curiosity in the subject of the lesson. For example, it can be a personal anecdote which is connected to a subject, it can be a brain teaser, or it can be a challenge question, it can be a historical example, it can be a multimedia source. And I have just the video for you by amazing Andy Newman. So I'm just going to play that for you and let's listen in.
What you're going to do is finding yourself in the periodic table of elements. So, what do I mean by that? Well, first off, you guys know what it's ink. Well, ink can be found in the periodic table of elements with aluminum, neodymium, and yttrium. But that's not the element. I get that. Not every letter is in the periodic table, but there is quite a few. Now, I can also go about this another way and use aluminum, nitrogen, and dysprosium. So you see what I did there? I mixed up. I'm still using aluminum, but I mixed up how I use my N and my Y. So it just happened to be that nitrogen and dysprosium Y is this atomic symbol make my name. What I want you guys to do is be creative yourself. You're going to find your name in the periodic table of elements. You're going to go old school, get a piece of paper, draw it out, but it should look like the square that's in the periodic table of elements. If you wanted to go digital with it, fantastic. Share that with me as well. But you're going to need a screenshot of that in some way. And you're going to first off find the number of total protons you have, the total number of neutrons you have, the total number of electrons you have in your name, and the total atomic mass that makes up your name. Explain why did you pick the elements that you did. Obviously, it's going to spell your name, but you can be creative with this. Not every letter is going to be in there. I get that. I understand. So if you have to leave a specific letter out, I get it. Try to spell the name that I taught you in class and create your name, finding yourself in the periodic table of elements.
I just love that video. So what Andy's done over here is that he's asked the students to spell out their names using using um, uh, elements, symbols, using symbols. And after that, he's not stopped at that. He's asked them to find out the total protons, neutrons, and electrons which make up the person's name, the student's name, and then they have he's asked them to tell what is the total atomic mass present in that name. So and he's put it all together with this interesting video that we have. Now remember that you have to keep your hooks short, and it's an effective opening that engages while setting students up for the main instruction. So it's just like getting them hooked just before you give them the more detailed instructions that follow. Now, another strategy is to fill
But
in
what
dead
you're going
time.
to do
Okay,
is
let me move that. Okay, so the other strategy that I have is to fill in dead time. Now, what do you mean by dead time? So, dead time is any point in a lesson where students are left without something to do. So, you might be waiting for everybody to join in just before the class, or for a YouTube video to load, or just you might be distributing worksheets in an offline class. These are brief periods that leave just enough time for students to tune out. And once they've tuned out, the teachers, we as teachers, we can see our students literally zoning out. After that, if they zone out, it's very difficult to get them back on track. So prevent them from zoning out by filling those blank spaces with low order activities to hold on to the students attention. And remember that these activities should be quick, they should be easy, and they should require minimal follow up. For example, we have the 3 to 1 activities where students reflect upon 3 key ideas from a lesson, 2 things that are still unclear, and 1 thing that they'd like to explore. It's like a KWL video: know, want to know, and what they have learned. So, let's look at another example. You have, if we look at an example from math from educator Sean Arnold. This is an odd one out activity, which is a perfect way to end the lesson on shapes. So a huge shout out to Sean Arnold. I just love this activity. And how can I not share my favorite subject? How can I not include my favorite subject, science? You can go ahead with simple activities to increase retention among students of topics that you just taught in your elementary class. For example, who thought that enhancing scientific vocabulary could be as simple as naming the maximum number of animals or elements in 30 seconds? So give it a shot. Name the maximum number of animals or elements in 30 seconds without repeats. You'll find out how difficult it is, and that yes, it requires retention, it requires memory, and you have to be a very good communicator at doing that. Now, coming to the next strategy, which is to encourage students to present and share their work regularly. Now, giving students a regular opportunity to share their thoughts and demonstrate learning in front of their peers drives engagement in two ways. So, let's look at these. First, it makes students accountable, and it lets them hear from someone other than their teacher. So, it shouldn't always be just the teacher speaking, but they get to hear from others other than the teacher. It makes it makes the classroom equitable. It provides for an engaging space that echoes the voice of every student and not just the voice of the teacher. And that's what we are looking for. And whenever we are talking about making the presentations, this can be a longish presentation, much like the example that you see over here with a science fair activity, or it can be something which is very short form, like this elevator pitch. I just love this short form elevator pitch activity. And do note that there would often be students who quiver in fear at the thought of speaking in front of the class. You can combine presentations into group work that ways. After all, even in academics, teamwork truly does make the dream work. So have them present individually or have them present in groups. It depends upon you as a teacher. Now, it's really, really, really important right now. I've been sitting for a long time, and it's really important to get your students moving. I'm feeling fidgety at this point of time. Imagine what students would be going through one class after the other. So please get your students moving. If your students struggle just like you to sit still for an entire lesson, get them moving, and all that pent up energy can be channeled into a learning activity that puts them on their feet. Why not try out this brilliant idea by Kathy, a flip hunt? Always a win, especially amongst our playful children. And not just children, even adults love it. I, for one, love flip hunts. And the next thing is gamification. Yes, how remember, I'm a gamer at heart. So lastly, we can encourage friendly competition amongst learners. To do that, you can use in-class games, quizzes, or gamified learning programs to engage students with friendly competition. And I'd circle back to fliphunt because it's fun, it's low stakes, it gamifies the environment, and of course it is flexible for you to tie into any subject, age level, and knowledge level. Remember, friendly is the key word here. Make sure that the competitive activities are low stakes and put the emphasis on learning instead of winning. And just in case you were wondering, from where can you access these wonderful examples? Well, all of these topics are treasures from the Flipgrid Discovery Library. You can find more ideas and inspiration with more than 42,500. That's right, 42,500 ready to launch topics from educators and 75 plus partners such as Adobe, BBC, Bunsey, Disney, Minecraft, Lego, Wonderopolis, all housed into the treasure of the Discovery Library. So, just in case you want to know more about it, more about the Discovery Library, we'll be talking about that in an upcoming session. Well, that's a wrap from me, and thank you for tuning in, educators. If you like this session, feel free to connect with us across all social media platforms using Flipgrid. You can use the hashtag Flipgrid for all, and if you have any questions, ask it away in the chat. And you can connect with me on Twitter at DPS Kamal, and be sure to join our Facebook group by scanning the QR code on the screen that you see. We are here to support you, to be your cheerleaders, to share and connect with you, and we are here to help you because we love you for everything that you do every single day to empower students in your classroom. Lastly, to know more about the Discovery Library that I just showed you, that I just mentioned above in this session, you can join me on 9th Jan at 4 p.m. IST, same place, GET APAC, where we'll be exploring ways to share, learn, and grow in the community. And in case you're a Hindi speaking teacher curious to learn more about Flipgrid as a tool to engage and amplify, तो आप कल GEG दिल्ली NCR में शाम 5 बजे हमारा सत्र में शामिल हो जाइए. Looking forward to the continuous learning. This is Kamalpreet signing off, and I'm here with you to address any queries, any questions you might have. Please drop them out in the chat. Hi, Anne. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's always such a pleasure. You're such an inspiration, Anne. Hello, Rio. Thank you. Even I'm so excited. Not, I'm so excited to attend all the other sessions as well. Oh, you're tuning in from Malaysia. I just thank you for tuning in. Hi, Nathan. Thank you for joining in. Seriously, it's every day we are learning from each other. As teachers, it's all about learning from each other. It's not just teaching, we learn every single day, and I'm so happy that you've included me in these sessions. It's been lovely learning from enthusiastic, motivating, amazing educators like yourself. Thank you, Jay. Thank you so much, Mel. Absolutely, and better together always. Thank you, Rio. What to know and learn. Yes, it's almost like you're giving KWL, you're transforming those KWLs into KWL videos. Yes, and gets the party started right on, Mel. Yes, Sean Arnold is amazing. He is, I just loved that math activity. And a huge shout out to all those educators who have shared their activities in the Discovery Libraries. You too can share your activities in the Discovery Library, and to find out how, join me on 9th, that is Sunday at 4 p.m. at same place at 4 p.m. on Sunday. Yes, and better together always. Um, Thank you so much. Oh, I know it's like get time. It's so difficult to balance our time, and as educators, we are always falling short of time. We devote so much to our students that it's difficult to make time for ourselves. I hear you. I understand that, Nathan. Totally understand that. I see there are no more questions. So, signing off for the day. I'll see you tomorrow if you are a if you speak Hindi, uh, or on Sunday, where we'll be talking about the Discovery Library. Bye.